Hello there. Today we'll be looking at 5 SCPs that would make good D&D encounters, because why not? After all, if you're going to be facing unkillable murder machines, you might as well get a feel for what you're up against first. Now, SCP-049, the Plague Doctor, is one that could easily pass for a high-level necromancer in most RPG settings. This anomaly is a humanoid entity roughly 1.9 meters tall, or 6'2", which bears the appearance of a medieval plague doctor. However, this isn't just a human in full medieval garb. Scans have shown that SCP-049 is one continuous entity, meaning that the clothes and bird-like mask are a part of its body. What isn't a part of its body, however, is its black doctor's bag full of medieval medical instruments, which is shown to have an anomalously high capacity. Now, aside from its strange biology, this anomaly's most concerning anomalous property is its ability to cease all biological function within an organism through direct skin contact. In other words, if he touches you, you dead. Strangely, 049 often expresses remorse or frustration after killing a person this way, indicating that they have done little to kill the pestilence, an unknown affliction that he seems to believe most, if not all people around him are affected by. Also, after such a kill, 049 has been observed to perform a crude surgery on the corpse using his doctor's bag, often resulting in the creation of an 049-2 instance, which is essentially a zombie. These reanimated corpses seem to retain no memories or mental functions, having only basic motor skills and seemingly being completely obedient to 049's commands, who refers to them as cured. Now, aside from his obsession with the pestilence and his propensity for wanton murder and experimentation with cadavers, 049 has proven to be largely cooperative and conversational when it comes to the Foundation. He entered Foundation custody willingly when found, and partook in numerous interviews, providing further insight into his origins and goals. For reference, here's an excerpt from his first interview with the Foundation.
Alors, est-ce qu'on devrait commencer? Une introduction?
Is that French? Can we get a translator?
The King's English. No need for translation, sir. I can speak it well enough.
Good. My name is Dr. Raymond Ham, and I...
Ah, a doctor. A like-minded individual, no doubt. Wherein is your specialty, sir?
Cryptobiology? Why...
A medical man such as myself. Wonders abound, and here I worried I'd been abducted by common street thugs. This place, then... This is your laboratory. I had wondered, as clean as it is, and with such little trace of the pestilence here.
The pestilence? What do you mean?
The scourge, the great dying. Come now, you know, what is it they call it? No matter. The pestilence, yes. It abounds outside these walls, you know. So many have succumbed, and many more will continue to until such a time as a perfect cure can be developed. Fortunately, I am very close. It is my duty in life to rid the world of it, you see. The cure to end all cures.
When you say the Great Dying, are you talking about the bubonic plague?
I don't know what that is.
So I'm sure you can see how this SCP would make for a great bad guy. A deluded necromancer equipped with a bag of holding full of necromantic implements and a mastery of power word kill? Sounds like a campaign to me. And you gotta admit, he looks pretty cool. Our next SCP is 106, often referred to as the Old Man. This anomaly has the appearance of an elderly humanoid suffering from advanced decomposition. The Old Man is shown to be not exceptionally agile, often remaining motionless for days at a time as it waits for its prey. However, it is also capable of scaling any vertical surface and can remain suspended upside down indefinitely. Creepy. And on top of all that, SCP-106 has been shown to cause a corrosion effect in all solid matter it touches, including people, causing matter to break down seconds after contact. The effect has been defined as similar to rusting or rotting, and is generally attributed to the black mucus-like substance that the Old Man appears to be covered in at all times. Now, this corrosion effect has largely been observed whenever 106 makes use of yet another anomalous property, its ability to pass through solid matter, leaving behind a large patch of its corrosive mucus whenever it does. It's been theorized that the Old Man accomplishes this by entering some form of pocket dimension, as it doesn't appear to be inside the matter it enters, but it is able to exit from any point connected to the initial entry point. For example, it could phase into a wall, then exit from the ceiling of that same room. Again, creepy. 106 has also been observed to trap its prey inside of this pocket dimension, reportedly playing with and injuring them before killing them through anomalous means, presumably using its corrosive mucus. And yep, you heard that right, prey, because this thing enjoys a good hunt. While the old man doesn't appear to require any form of sustenance to survive, it seems to go on long sadistic hunts after periods of inactivity, terrorizing and trapping anyone it can find before going dormant again. Oh, and the only way to actually contain this thing is by luring it into containment with some good prey. In other words, a young subject is severely injured, left in a cell, and their cries of pain are transmitted via PA system to make sure 106 can't miss it, which has resulted in this famous clip of the femur breaker in action. Just a quick headphone warning, it is loud. And haunting.
Let me go. I just want to leave. Please.
Yeah, so that's another fun example of how the Foundation treats what it calls personnel. Anyways, as for the D&D thing, this thing sort of reminds me of like a creepier, more powerful Strahd von Zarovich, trapping strangers in his pocket dimension to act as his prey. Maybe he's a poor soul corrupted by a high-level spell gone wrong, cursed by the gods, or fused with some ancient artifact. The need to sacrifice an individual in order to lure or trap it also provides an interesting moral dilemma. Something to keep in mind. Our next SCP is, unfortunately, about as creepy as the last one. SCP-939 is a species of pack-based predator that, I guess, vaguely resembles dogs, with a lot of exceptions. For one, their skin is a translucent red composed of a chemical resembling blood. They can be over 2.2 meters tall, or 7'2" when standing upright, and weigh an average of 250 kilograms. They're equipped with long claws, luminescent fang-like teeth, and have elongated heads devoid of eyes. In their place, they have light-sensitive eye spots all along their spine dorsal ridges, which are believed to also be sensitive to changes in air pressure and flow. So, really not like a dog at all. Forget I said that. Now, aside from being freaks of nature, 939 instances have two notable abilities that make them incredibly effective predators. The first is their ability to mimic human speech as well as the vocalizations of other animals. This is 939's primary method of luring prey, typically vocalizing sounds of significant distress, such as cries for help, resulting in a potentially terrifying feedback loop, where victims of 939 scream for help, are hunted down, and then their screams are repeated, luring in new victims who in turn feed 939 more voices. And as if that wasn't bad enough, 939's second anomalous property is its ability to cause amnesia in its victims. It accomplishes this by exhaling an aerosolized Class C amnestic, which inhibits memory formation during exposure and for 30 minutes after. This is also proven to be largely untraceable, being colorless, odorless, tasteless, and undetectable in the bloodstream 60 minutes after exposure. As you can imagine, dealing with 939 instances is thus remarkably difficult and disorienting, as they will lure you into a death trap using human voices, and even if you do survive an encounter with them, you won't remember any of it. For a time, the Foundation actually considered using SCP-939 instances as a source of renewable Class C amnestics, but this was quickly suspended after an incident which led to the realization that individuals exposed to this amnestic would be able to subconsciously track 939 instances, or at least their dens, through a combination of scent and resurfacing memories. Interesting. Now, with any amount of imagination, this would make for an excellent combat encounter, with players being perpetually gaslit by the imitated voices of their companions, as well as memories of what they're fighting being lost over time. If you're at all familiar with the False Hydra, you'll know this can be a wildly effective encounter. Next up is an SCP that's largely recognized as one of the first SCPs the public managed to get any real information about. SCP-173, the Statue. 173 is an anomaly that takes the form of a large, vaguely human-shaped statue made from concrete and rebar with traces of spray paint. Its anomalous property is that it is in fact animate and extremely hostile, but can only move when it's not being observed. Whenever it isn't in direct line of sight of anyone, it appears to move incredibly fast, dispatching anyone in reach either by snapping their necks at the base of the skull or via strangulation. Now, since it hasn't been observed to be particularly destructive otherwise, containing this anomaly would generally be as simple as locking it up or burying it in cement. However, SCP-173 has been known to move around while not being observed and emit a reddish-brown substance that's been shown to be a combination of feces and blood. The origin of these materials is currently unknown and must be cleaned on a bi-weekly basis in order to avoid potential contamination or overflow. Given its anomalous properties, SCP-173 is simple to neutralize, but a single slip-up can easily lead to a disastrous containment breach and mass casualties. As such, no fewer than 3 members of staff are to interact with this anomaly at one time, with 2 maintaining eye contact with it at all times during testing or cleaning. There's not too much more information on this SCP, it's an oldie but a goodie. I feel like the idea of an entity that makes line of sight important could make for an interesting encounter in any tabletop role-playing game, adding an extra bit of tension and planning to every turn as well as encouraging communication between players. Oh, and fun fact, this anomaly has a lot of nicknames, my favorites being Billy and Peanut. He kinda does look like a peanut, doesn't he? Makes him sound a lot less intimidating if you ask me. And for our last anomaly, SCP-457 is one that seems like it already could be a D&D monster, Living Flame. But it's not exactly a common fire elemental. 457's actual form has been proven to be invisible and undetectable by any known means, but it takes shape in the form of the flames it produces, which is often vaguely humanoid given sufficient fuel. Its most rudimentary form appears to be just a single flame comparable to the size of a lit match, but it can jump to more flammable materials or active flames and assimilate them into its form, growing larger. One of 457's anomalous properties is how its intelligence grows along with the size of its flame, going from mostly instinct-driven as a match to fully sentient and even able to communicate through writing or speech when it reaches a sufficient size. This does appear to have an upper limit, however, with 457 splitting into multiple beings upon reaching a certain threshold. Whenever this happens, the new beings appear to be separate intelligences that often fight each other for resources. Now, while 457's general behavior is largely predictable, it really just wants to acquire fuel and get bigger, its intelligence has made it more difficult for the Foundation to contain effectively than expected. Records show that it has learned over time and even mimicked the behaviors of others it has observed, at some point learning to damage or sabotage sprinkler systems, set up complex traps, and even attempt to trick personnel into being released or being given more fuel. When interviewed while in human form, SCP-457 had this to say.
Want fuel, want air, want burn, want to burn, want to burn, want to burn.
Well, at least he knows what he wants. After this, it managed to identify and damage both the sprinkler system in its containment area, as well as the fuel injector that had been sustaining its intelligent form, allowing it to gorge on gallons of gasoline before being properly contained again. So if ever you were looking to have the plane of fire come up in your next campaign, an entity like this could make for a neat plot hook. A chain of wildfires that ends up being a living entity that grows, multiplies, and fights you as well as other instances of itself. That's good, I might just use that one. Anyway, that's all the time we have for this week. Remember that an open and well-trained mind can be a better weapon than any sword or gun. And, as always, ask yourself, is ignorance safer than truth?